Howdy, welcome to the Pagan Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Janet Callahan. I'm the author of Parenting Pagan Tots and 2 new workbooks on children's programming and working with disabled children in children's programming. And you can find those on Amazon and on Kindle. I am also the mom to 2 wonderful but slightly complicated kiddos. And on this podcast, we talk about all things pagan parenting. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back. Hey, today I want to talk a little bit about pagan parenting resources. So last summer I did a long video rant, about 20 minutes long maybe, about resources for pagan families and about how there's like more than a dozen books, some of them 25 years old or older, on pagan parenting. And yet, pretty much that's still exactly where we're at. We don't have much beyond Spiral Scouts. We're getting a few good books now, which is nice. That's hugely important from my perspective, because books are the sort of thing that kids are exposed to over and over and over again. And books that share our worldview are good for families to read together. It helps give kids that sort of grounded sense that there are other people out there like them. We have a pretty diverse bookshelf here, on purpose, right? We're indigenous, so we have a lot of indigenous books. We have a lot of books by authors of color. We have a lot of books on different topics and by different people with different types of main characters. So the fact that we're seeing more storybooks is really, really awesome. But we're not seeing any of the rest of the stuff, right? Look around you and see what's out there for Christian kids. Do a little research and see what's out there for Jewish kids and Muslim kids and even for Hindu kids. But there isn't that much out there for our kids. It's picking and choosing, finding the few mainstream things that sort of kind of fit. It's looking at things like Veggie Tales and saying, no, that's not really our thing, right? It's picking through movies and hoping you find something that is in line with our values. And so it's really startling to me how few resources there are in the grand scheme of things, because we've had a lot of time to work on this. So over on paganparenting.info, you will find lots of reviews. I'm still reviewing. I'm behind on reviews again. But we're getting reviews reposted that are already done, so there's that. Both on books for kids and books for parents. And I have about a dozen books for parents in my bookshelf. And I want to make sure I get all of those reviewed this year. And, some of them some of them were written when I was in high school, right? I'm in my mid-40s now. This is not rocket science. I don't understand why it's so hard for us as a community to get it together. Why none of the community seems to think that resources for our families is important. If you're looking for resources, please go search Amazon. Search for pagan parenting, search for pagan families, search for pagan kids. You will find things. And some of those books have bibliographies, and you will find things in their bibliographies. Some of these books are out of print. Some of these older books. Most of them you can find used copies at a reasonable price. Not always, but most of the time. To be fair, one time Amazon screwed up my feed for Parenting Pagan Tots, and it was listed at $900 used. So, books are out there. Hold your communities accountable. Like, what are they doing for children's events? What are they doing for kids' activities at public events? what are they doing for Ostara? Is there like an egg hunt or something? Is there like some sort of winter holiday gift-giving event? Or some Halloween party, Samhain party, a costume ball? I mean, come on. Some of this is not hard. I would like to see far more ambitious things, honestly. I would like to see childcare options and more laid out sort of curriculum type things for people to work with their kids, and more pagan homeschooling stuff. We're not really a big curriculum family, but I know that curriculums matter for a lot of people, and I think those things are necessary for us as a community to thrive and survive. We lack a lot of those sort of mainstream things. At least here in Metro Detroit, we don't have a big, strong list of like, this mechanic is pagan and you could go see him and he's not going to freak out about the things hanging in your car windshield. This baker bakes pagan cupcakes, and this, furnace repair guy is pagan and he's not going to flip out about the altar in your living room. We should be doing that kind of stuff for our families, and we're not. And I wish that we were doing a better job. So yeah, go check out paganparenting.info on the blog. There is a video, a couple pages worth of blog posts back about all of those sorts of things, about all the books. It gives all the titles of books and all of the authors of the books. But also be on the lookout for new stuff. I've got a couple of new things out this year about putting on programming in general, like how you arrange programming for children, sort of step by step. And I've got a little tiny booklet about how to make your programming more inclusive for children with special needs. Because I think that's part of it too. We have to include everybody in our community, not just the handful of kids who want to color in coloring pages we printed out from some website. And that's what I see at a lot of events. That's the entirety of what is offered to children. And if we're not offering better than that for our families, then shame on us. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about some more stuff. Hey, welcome back. Let's talk a little bit about some ways that you can make your programming for children more inclusive. This is by far not an exhaustive list, but it's a good starting point that mostly will be easy and inexpensive for you to tackle this sort of topic. The first one is, let's rethink coloring books and coloring pages. Coloring seems like it's super, super easy, right? Every kid loves to color. Most adults love to color, if they admit it. But what not every kid loves is the work of coloring. So if you're going to do something like coloring, have other options. Have some Play-Doh. Have space for kids to jump up and down. That's a big thing across the board, by the way. Don't expect kids to sit for an hour. Just don't. Statistics show that the average kindergartner's attention span, and we're talking about a typical kindergartner at 5 or 6 years old, is on the order of 10 to 15 minutes. And what they mean by that is that they will pay attention to whatever's going on 80% of the time, as long as it's something that's reasonably interesting. Which is to say, they're not going to listen to you drone on about some subject they have no knowledge on. And they're not going to all put their eyeballs on you the whole time and just sit there and listen. Attention spans do not go up that much by age. It's a couple of minutes per year. So, generally, plan to change positions or change activities within the concept of what you're doing every 10 to 15 minutes for best results. You can go a little longer with older kids. Mostly, right? Keep in mind, this is still on average. This is still most kids, most neurotypical kids whose brains work the way most people's brains work. For kids with ADD and with autism and with some other challenges, their attention span is going to be much shorter unless it's something that really, really, really interests them. So, again, keep things moving. Spend a little bit of time on something and then move on to the next activity. If you have somebody who's struggling to sit in that seat, find a way for them to stand up or to wiggle in that seat. I'll admit to you, I am sitting here in an office chair, just sort of rocking back and forth on the spinny bits of it, because that's how I sit all the time. I am the only person in the office when I'm in the office, in a conference room, sitting there sort of spinning back and forth. And I'm not even going that far, 15 or 20 degrees, but it's immediately obvious to everybody in the room that I'm the only person moving. All right, so plan in some of those things if you can. The next one is, think of a children's workshop sort of like a good ritual, right? When we go to a ritual, we have some introductory stuff before the ritual. The group I used to do full moons with would line everybody up. They would welcome everybody into the circle. You do all of your introductory, casting the circles, calling the quarters, calling the deities, all that sort of stuff, cleansing the area, smudging. And then we would have some teaching or some ritual work. And then we'd have maybe a meditation, and then we would have some sort of actual magic, right? Where you're going to raise energy and send that energy out to do something. So we'd have whatever activity we were doing to raise energy. We would send that energy out, and then we would ground ourselves, and we'd have cakes and ale, and we would close up the circle and let everybody go. Right? And you see how that makes sort of like a mountain, where you're coming in at the beginning of the mountain and where that cone of power is at the top of the mountain, and then you come back down the other side. Kids need that sort of flow. If it's something you're doing regularly with them, like a weekly or monthly class, they need something like an introductory ritual. Spiral Scouts does this pretty well. They have an introductory thing that sort of sets it up as the bookend. They have an intro and a closing. And those two things bookend, we are in special space and we're going to do this stuff together. So if you're doing something that's a repeated event or a repeated group, then you should have something like that too. These days we should be careful about snacks. Make sure you ask every parent or guardian if there's anything that child can or can't eat. When we did Spiral Scouts, we had a lot of kids with allergies. We had a lot of kids with different diets. So most of the time we did fruits and vegetables and like water or Kool-Aid. I don't know that I would do Kool-Aid anymore in a big public group. It seems like the sort of thing with there are just too many people who are going to say no to that. But having that food helps ground children's energy, because you do not want to work those children up and hand them back to their parents all scattered and bouncing off the walls. That's just not really fair to anybody, and that's a good way for you not to be teaching long term. Make sure that you are not depending on written objects, written examples. not every kid can read, which we know, right? Kindergartners and first graders don't read all that well. But even amongst your older kids, some of those kids are not going to read very well. And you need to be prepared to have other ways of telling them what you want them to do. We use a lot of picture schedules. We use like one of our occupational therapists gets a marker board and she offers choices. Do you want to do this or this? And then she draws a picture of it. Okay, you're going to do this or this. Then she draws that picture and they just go through and check them all off the list. You should also think about, if at all possible, having a separate space within your space for a child who is overwhelmed. Lots of us get overwhelmed, especially at magical events where there's a lot of magical people and a lot of energies in the air, as they say. And it's easy for some kids to get overwhelmed. So have a nice quiet place for them to go, or a little tent for them to go crawl into, or a cardboard box or something, anything, right? Someplace that's away from the immediate group, but where you can still see them. And then the last thing I would say is, remember, this is not a school. In most cases, you don't have a room full of desks. You don't have the structure of a school day where children know what they're expected to do, one thing after the other. So don't think you can put one adult in charge of 20 kids and have a good outcome. Even in schools, they don't have one adult in charge of 20 kids, right? They have aides who come in and out. They have kids who go to other classrooms for other things. They have, it's just a lot of, there's always additional support around. Your ratios probably should be more like the average daycare ratio. For older kids, school-age kids, it's on the order of 1 to 12 or 1 to 18 in most places. For preschool, it's typically on the order of 1 to 8 to 1 to 12. That gives you additional support if a child really needs extra help paying attention or participating in the activity. But it also gives you extra support if things go wrong and you need to go find a parent, or you have a child who's just completely lost all control of their capability to pay attention and cooperate and work with you. So those are the simple things, simple basic things. It's not even like I'm asking for something that's really out in left field. Those are good starting points. We can do better than that. But this is the bare minimum. This is the kind of things you should be doing even for typical children. Because these are the things that give them their best results and their best experience. And that's really what we want. We want them to enjoy their learning experiences at our events. And that should be our goal. Thanks for listening. That's it for this episode. This is just a reminder that you can find Pagan Parenting Podcast on Facebook, and you can check out our website, paganparenting.info. We'll talk more soon.